Good morning and thank you. First of all, I owe an apology. I think this event was rescheduled once because of AM/PM error. So my office booked the wrong flight. I apologize for that. Very interesting that the way some of you put it. What you saw of the campaign in the last 4 months was, as I described, at the tip of the iceberg. It was 5% of the campaign. 95% was the planning, the organization that went into it over the last 4 or 5 years. And I think some of the things we can talk about today are those stories. But, comprehensively, how we built this campaign on a technology platform, the real story started in 2010. The party was in a disarray. We had lost 2009. There's a leadership crisis in the party, and new leadership was taking over. And we started. There was a guy like me who said, "I'm going to offer your services, my services, full time, and at no cost to the party, which is always welcome." So they said, do it. The key thing in that is we started out a small team, but we did not really go ahead and toe on anybody else's footsteps. So we said whatever we are doing is totally an additional effort, and that was the key learning, because once you start taking baby steps, there are 5 other people who want to pull you back and say, this is not going to work, or this is something that is not going to help us in the long run. So a big part of the evangelizing we did in 2010 and 11 was to make sure that we set up independent systems, we evaluate technologies which are going to be useful in 13, 14. And the key thing was you had to play a lot of quarterfinals and semifinals before the finals came in. The finals came in now, like the World Cup, right? I mean, you play a lot of small matches before you prepare the finals. So we tested all our hypotheses, we built all our platforms over the 2010-2013 period. And a lot of things that you saw in the campaign were those players, those tools, those messages, or those communication methods that had been tested before. And so they were, in a way, slightly proved for their efficacy. So when it came to 2014, the last 4 months, we knew this had a higher potential of working. Nobody could guarantee anything would work, but had a higher chance and a potential of working. So there are a lot of quarterfinals and semifinals. Anecdotally, there have been elections that, we were told, this is one by-election. We have won the big election, for example, Banaskantha in Gujarat. And the Prime Minister told us, the current Prime Minister told us, you take this as a sample to do whatever you want to test, and completely run it. We won't do a print ad at all. Completely run it digitally, for example. So we could test a lot of our hypotheses there. So there are a lot of such instances, small cases that we experimented with, we tested our hypotheses, and we built a strong database of what and how things will happen. But 3 key things that worked over the last 3-4 years, we built a great platform. A great technology platform, which included social media, mobile, internet, all things. And that was sustainable. It was sustainable from 2010 to 14. And we'll discuss a lot more of that, because that was very important. It had to be sustainable. Secondly, we created believers in that platform. We created believers both within the party, and of course having a leader like Mr. Modi helped. But Mr. Modi became the Prime Minister candidate only in 2013. This was being done much before that. And we created volunteers across social media. All sorts of volunteers, by the way. Some people, and as India is, very aggressive, but some very research oriented. And these volunteers, enormous task of unifying them throughout the country. And that's where in 2013, and I'm interrelating a lot of things, we launched this Mission 272 Plus, because that gave them an identity from a branding perspective, from an identity perspective. They all got unified into a mission, into a common goal that they had to achieve. So that was that Mission 272 Plus that we launched in last July. So the volunteers were created, they started understanding the utility of all these platforms, the leaders started understanding the utility of the platform. In all fairness, the leaders also, as I said, this was an additional thing. So they said, let them do whatever they're doing, it's not harming us. And lastly, we created a communication system where messages could be adapted to each different platform. Now that's a very challenging thing to do. Those of us who are in the field of branding, marketing, communication, to take a content from a 30-minute video to a 3-minute video to a 30-second video to now 6 seconds and tell the same story was a learning. It was a huge exercise. But we understood how to tell that story. So one of the things you saw in the campaign was the consistency in the message, but communicated over a 6-second video, which are called Vine videos, to a 30-second WhatsApp video, to a 3-minute YouTube video, to be maybe a 10-minute video for all other channels. So that is something that we kind of experimented with, learned over the course of the last 3-4 years. But in the end, it was a complete 360-degree campaign. The last thing that you saw, huge response time, huge set of volunteers. The volunteers contributed a lot, every part of India. And we connected volunteers through all means. We used online technology to organize them online, but the real success was on ground. So this volunteer effort is so massive that today, if we walk around, in any constituency of India, you can meet volunteers. They said, I contributed to that, the Mission 272 plus. So we created this small brand ambassadors in every single constituency of India. And that was a very long period of, long process, as well as a very, very interesting exercise, because all sorts of people, non-internet connected, speaking all different languages, having different aspirations and reasons why they are connected to the campaign. A lot of them connected only because they had association or hope from Mr. Modi and not really with the BJP. I think a lot more of that category than anybody else. But yes, there were a lot of BJP volunteers also, and this was a parallel army of people. At last count, we had about 22 lakh volunteers, spread over about 400 constituencies in India. That's a huge workforce, which was working at absolutely zero cost to the party and to the campaign. So just out of their own inspiration and drive, they were going out, doing things, and all we had to do is to organize them using technology, make sure that they know what they have to do in the ground, make sure they have the tools and the messages on a daily basis that they can communicate further. So that is where technology really was an enabler. The challenge was to put this massive campaign together, this energy of people, build a brand. And we can talk at length about how this whole brand was built in terms of the brand Modi, the brand Mission 272 plus, and how the whole messaging was married to a concept of political marketing, the brand marketing to political messaging, and how that converged. And technology just helped in doing that. A few more highlights. I think it's very important to say that in the last 1.5 years, it was completely leadership driven. Because if there was no receptive leader at the top, it was very difficult to do what all we did. So, and there was a lot of empowerment. The other thing that typically that you learn in corporate world or anywhere outside is if you don't empower people to make decisions and do things quickly, things won't happen. So we had the empowerment, and we should thank people like Mr. Ashok Malik here, Swapan Das, our creative team led by the Soho Square group of people, Piyush Pandey and Kyo, who coined this term, Ab Ki Baar Modi Sarkar, and Achhe Din Aane Wale Hain, which hopefully are there. So, the response time was so fast. And that response time can be fast only when people feel empowered to make a decision. And only a good leader can do that. So we saw Mr. Modi saying that, hey, we have empowered you to do it. I'll take a review and go ahead and do it. Don't screw up, of course. Which we hope, hopefully, we made lesser errors than the other party. And that's what any campaign is all about. You make lesser mistakes, more positive steps, and I think we did that. people.
Thanks, Arvind. Let me just ask you two quick questions before we move to the next speaker. One, I think there is a certain association of conservatism, of certain degree of an old world view, and before 2013 when Namo became the brand that you rallied around, how difficult was it for you to sell new medium, a new style of messaging, and perhaps a new message itself to perhaps the geriatrics and the wise people in the party?
See, the key in that, as I said, is to ensure you don't step on somebody's toes. And you keep, and this is very true, and you say this is, and we actually created this as an additional platform. You say, and the other important thing is, this was totally self-sufficient, by the way. The funds were generated by all our online volunteers and online donors. We launched that way back before any other party who claims they have done that in 2010, actually. We realized the potential of online volunteers, online donors in 2010. We launched in July 2010. So we are actually a profit unit. So we generate more money than we spend. Right? That was one thing. So we were taking no resources away from the party.
Important.
Secondly, it was additional to whatever else was happening. So they continued to do things in all the 10 manners that they were supposed to do. So if there was a rally, for example, you would still advertise the rally in the print media. You'll still put the hoardings up. You'll still put the banners up. You'll still do all the 10 things that you always did. We added the 11th, 12th, and the 13th, which was now put it on a live internet TV channel, put it on a phone. I don't know how many of you heard that. See, we also realize only 20% of Indians are connected to the internet. 80% are not. And out of the 20%, only half of them are social media. So the three audiences that we catered to was the 10 crore people on social media, the additional 10 crore on the internet, 20 crore on the internet. But there was another 60 crore potential voters which are not connected on any of those two things. So on a plain simple phone. The old phone without any internet, without any smartness in it. And so every rally of Mr. Modi was actually webcasted live on the internet, but also on a phone. So you could dial in an ordinary phone number and hear his rally live. Actually, that's one of our internal patents that we deployed during the campaign. So as I said, this was the 11th, 12th, and 13th thing. And of course, then we used internet, mobile phone, and social media. So it was live tweeted on the internet and everything. So those were the 11th, 12th, and 13th. Did it, impact the first 10 things? It did not. So everybody was, happy with that. But slowly, people started realizing that the 11th, 12th, and 13th was
bringing in benefits.
More benefits. The ROI, the return on investment, if you may call it, was much higher. So, we started getting more believers.
And the second question, now what? Because we saw with the Obama campaign, he ran a flawless presidential bid. He created, again, technology platforms, volunteers, the whole armies, raised a huge amount of money, made it a profit center. And then he was unable to put up a website for his Obamacare, the health reforms. He completely failed as a president in what he was able to do as an aspirant. So now what with the IT cell?
See, that's actually a very interesting thing, and I must say this is in all fairness, that the adrenaline does go down, right? I mean, the initiative, the adrenaline, the amount of passion that you were there before the May 16th does go down, and that does impact us. I think it's important, to keep pinching yourself and saying, hey, we need to keep the passion up and keep engaging with the volunteers and not let that thing go down. And in that spirit, I think we are actually ensuring that none of our drives go down, none of our activities go down. But that's good feedback. I genuinely feel it's good feedback, and I think there's a lot of learning there. There was a lot of, I must confess, even in May, the adrenaline was very high, but it would taper down now, and we need to ensure the levels are up.